Shaggy. What are you up to?
Huh? Oh, I'm doing a little investigative work, Velma. But it's not exactly a mystery. It's for a special assignment I'm doing in my U.S. history class.
What is it?
Well, I have to learn about a famous black American explorer named James Beckwourth.
How's it going?
Well, not too well. My history book doesn't give much information.
I think I know who could help you out.
Hey, you mean Tina, our friend, the whiz on history?
Right. She's at the malt shop. Let's go.
James Beckwourth? That old character? Sure, I know about him.
Could you fill us in, Tina?
Sure. James Beckwourth was born in Virginia in 1798 to a black slave mother. His white father had fought in the Revolutionary War. Young James was proud of his father and loved to listen to his war stories. When James was 8, the Beckwourth family and slaves moved west to just outside of St. Louis. James found life in this new territory much more exciting than in Virginia. All around the farm was a wilderness. And in that wilderness lived wild animals and savage Indians.
Oh boy, he found that exciting.
James spent his time exploring the wilderness and learning about the Indians. He also, however, had a desire for education.
That's very wise.
So, when James was 10, his father sent him to St. Louis to a private school. James was a quick learner, but he had social problems in school because of his mixed blood. As a result, his father apprenticed him to a St. Louis blacksmith.
Now that's hard work.
Even though James Beckwourth loved horses, he couldn't forget his desire to explore the wild country further west. After a violent argument with his boss, James persuaded his father to buy his release from the blacksmith. The boy had learned that a man named General Henry Ashley was looking for men to go west and trap beavers.
Why beavers?
Well, Velma, in the 1800s, men's beaver skin hats were all the rage in America, London, and Europe.
Oh, I see.
General Ashley's Rocky Mountain Fur Company was one of the main companies that sold beaver skins to the hat industry. Before Ashley started his business, most furs were bought from the Indians. Ashley had a different plan. He wanted his trappers to go deep into unexplored wilderness.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah.
He knew there must be many beavers there. He hired about 100 tough men to carry out his plan. Included were Kit Carson.
Kit Carson? He was famous.
Jediah Smith and none other than James Beckwourth. When Beckwourth agreed to join Ashley's company, he knew he would have to survive in the wilderness for months at a time. Locating the beavers, trapping them, and skinning them. It was hard work with little pay. That was all right with Beckwourth, though. He loved the rugged life and thrilled at discovering new territory. Once a year, the trapping parties would meet at a designated area in the wilderness and be paid for their pelts. At these meetings, the trappers would gamble, drink, and compete in friendly games. Then, with most of their pay squandered, they'd set off to trap again.
Well, what did they do besides trap during those long stretches, Tina?
Well, for one thing, he had to hunt for food. Beckwourth was a great buffalo hunter.
Well, I thought he'd taken food with him.
Mountain men used up their store-bought supplies a few months after they left civilization. Then they had to eat wild game and berries.
Didn't Beckwourth get lonely in the woods?
Not really. There were other trappers in his party. Besides that, they often crossed trails with other hunters. They would get together and tell each other of their adventures. Beckwourth was well known for being a great storyteller. Later, Beckwourth also made Indian friends.
Well, I thought the Indians were unfriendly.
Some were and some weren't. Beckwourth lived with a friendly tribe of Crow Indians. They thought Beckwourth was a Crow who had been kidnapped when he was a child by a band of Cheyenne Indians. An old squaw claimed to be his mother, and Beckwourth was accepted as a long-lost tribesman. He had several Indian wives, as was the custom. Beckwourth lived with the Indians for many years. He was even made a sub-chief.
Wow, how did he manage that?
The Indians generally admired his cunning and bravery. One incident assured Beckwourth's honor, however.
Well, what was that, Tina?
Both Indians and trappers were afraid of grizzly bears.
They're not the only ones, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The creatures weighed well over 1,000 pounds and stood 7 or 8 feet tall. One day, some Indians drove a wounded grizzly into a cave. Although they were brave, the Indians knew that going into the cave to finish the bear could easily mean death. Beckwourth decided to go in alone.
He did?
He was armed with only a sharp knife.
Oh, brave man.
I'll say.
The Indians waited. Their faces were sad. They really loved their long-lost brother, and now it seemed that they were sure to lose him again. After a few moments, they heard the fighting stop. Footsteps slowly neared the opening of the cave.
Oh, boy.
The Indians jumped back, prepared to face a grizzly. They were surprised to see Beckwourth, shaken up but alive.
He made it. He whipped a grizzly bear.
The Indians were so impressed that they made him a chieftain.
That's the least they could do.
Yeah.
Beckwourth served as a Crow chief for many years before returning to the white man's civilization. He led the Indians in peace and war under his Crow name, Medicine Calf. After leaving the Crows, Beckwourth served as a scout and courier for the army both in the West and in Florida for a short period. In 1842, Beckwourth established a trading post and founded a small community that in later years was to become Pueblo, Colorado.
No kidding.
Soldier of fortune Beckwourth was even involved in the war against Mexico, which established the Southwest as U.S. territory. His last great discovery was an important pass in the Sierra Nevada mountains. The Beckwourth Pass still bears his name.
Wow, Tina, James Beckwourth was certainly an impressive figure.
Yes, Shaggy, it was men like James Beckwourth who learned where the mountains began and ended, and who learned the hard, thirsty way where the deserts lay. They were the men who discovered, but sometimes did not live to tell where the hostile Indian territories were. It was men like Beckwourth who made the first Western maps and served as scouts for the wagon trains. Because they understood the Indians so well, they were also the men who served as interpreters and advisors for the government. James Beckwourth and his fellow trappers were the trailblazers who opened up the West.
Wow, I see what you mean. Beckwourth was an important part of our history and heritage, Tina.
Very true, Shaggy. Men like James Beckwourth are a rare breed, and their contributions are hard to measure.